Hannah relocated to France after my wife and I got divorced. My daughter visited New York. She was a born American. Her desire of working in the American publishing sector was realized when she applied for a job at a publishing company at the age of 25. But throughout the interview, she was made fun of by the two interviewers, who said things like, "A publishing company for someone who can't write in English? You still have to work on your English. To speak correctly, you must study more." My daughter controlled her anger despite the hurtful remarks. They would not listen, even when she stated that she is fluent in English and that her nationality is American. The interviewers ultimately told her she was hired after insulting her nonstop, but this was all a part of a bigger plan they planned. My daughter returned from the orientation with an angry and dejected expression on her face and said, "My employee ID name says incompetent." I stormed into orientation after learning about the situation and said, "You're all fired because this building is being demolished." My name is Ryan Johnson. My wife and daughter were very dear to me, but we were divorced when she was in elementary school. It was evident why we divorced. I became so focused on my career that I disregarded my family. My spouse and I traveled to the United States together after our marriage, but she left with our daughter. But I'm happy with my job, and I have no regrets. My goal is to create bridges between nations all over the world and open doors to other cultures. Hannah, my only kid with my French wife, has this similar mentality. I was stationed abroad and employed for a multinational corporation when I met my wife. In general, the people there were amiable and charming. Their strong sense of self-expression and their ability to articulate their goals and viewpoints were well appreciated. Hannah has a bright personality and is equally as gregarious, warming up to people immediately. But while our kid was in primary school, I got divorced from my wife. I appreciate that you constantly work late, but we haven't actually spoken in a while, and I don't see the point in us being together anymore. I believe we should think about taking other routes for our future, she informed me. By deciding to relocate to America and be far from her friends and family, I caused my wife to feel alone. I'd appreciated her views because of this. Following the divorce, Hannah accompanied her mother to her own nation. Hannah Smith replaced Hannah Johnson as her name. She is returning to the United States after almost 15 years. I am excited and anxious at the same time when I arrive at the airport and wait close to the gate where Hannah's flight is scheduled to land. I am really excited to see my kid again, and I didn't get any sleep at all last night. I look for her when her flight lands and people start to come out of the gate. I wave and exclaim, "Hannah, Hannah," with a bright smile as soon as I see her. She leaves her heavy suitcase behind and hurries toward me, excited to meet me. "Dad." We give one another hugs and celebrate our reunion. We depart from the airport together and make our way home. Hannah, who adores comics, American food, and culture, hopes to use her language abilities to work in America. I want to share my love for American culture with the world. I gave Hannah a recommendation for a certain business to assist her realize her ambition. We make the decision to visit that business on our way home from the airport. This is the business Hannah will be interviewing with. I'm getting nervous. You'll be fine if you approach it with your usual bright personality, Hannah. I felt like there was someone watching us as we were talking. I noticed two people in suits staring at us when I turned to face where the stare was coming from. Can I help you with something? It's great holding hands with a young, beautiful foreign woman. They both chuckle to us. No, she's my daughter. Your daughter? Do you have a daughter? In a voice that was hardly audible to us, the woman murmured to the man, "It's a secret relationship." I was irritated, but I held back my rage so Hannah wouldn't see me acting hostile. Do you work at this company? Yes, as you can see, it's a major company, so it's not a place for you. Hey, since a while ago, stop, Hannah. Hannah was one of those people who just had to say what she had to say. She wanted to make it plain that she was uncomfortable. But they could work for the company she might start working for shortly. In addition to my irate daughter, I distinctly recalled that the employee IDs said Patricia Brown and Mary Jones, and I wanted to avoid creating a bad situation. Hannah's anger didn't go away even after we arrived home. Dad, I don't want to go to that company. Those two are the only ones who seem unusual, so don't worry. That company is full with talented people. Really? Yes, I guarantee it. Hannah was practicing for her interview one day in the living room, her look tight. Thinking about how she would present herself, she arranged her experiences and strengths and jotted them down in her notepad. Dad, can you play the role of the interviewer? Got it. To begin, allow me to introduce myself. Hi, my name is Hannah Smith. She attempts to shake hands with me while posing as the interviewer after saying this. Hannah, you should shake hands with the interviewer and make eye contact first when in the United States. Next, during the interview, express interest in what the interviewer is saying. Invading the interviewer's area is impolite. Are you serious? That has a very American sound to it. Well, in comparison to other nations, sure. Additionally, it's crucial to write a thank you note as soon as possible following the interview. I practiced basic interview etiquette with her. Let's go on to discussing how to respond to inquiries. In what way would you answer that query? That's fine, but maybe you should give a more specific example. Hannah prepared her responses to frequently asked interview questions in advance. She improved her responses with my suggestions. All right, let's try again. Hannah put in a lot of practice so she would be confident on the day of the interview. At last, the day of the interview arrived. Bracing herself in the morning, Hannah felt equal parts anxious and excited. Hannah, exude assurance. I offered her a comforting pat on the shoulder and smiled, telling her that she would be all right, no matter what happened. My remarks gave Hannah confidence, and she left with her head held high. This is what my daughter told me after that. She greeted everyone in the interview room with a nice to meet you. It's not like this for us, is it? You're that girl from before, trying to act all grown up, and you came for an interview, said Patricia Brown and Mary Jones, who had earlier treated us badly. I apologize. All right, let's not stress over it. Kindly have a seat. Excuse me, Hannah said, trying not to panic. So, where are you from? I was born in the United States, but when I was 8, my parents divorced, and I moved to my mom's home country with her. Ah, I see. You struck me as a young woman with a strong sense of self. So how important is employment to the people in your mother's country? Efficiency and quality are prioritized in the United States, but how about in your nation? Brown's inquiry momentarily startled Hannah, but she calmly described the work ethic in her mother's nation. Nevertheless, Jones and Brown persisted in their inquiries, demonstrating their unfavorable assumptions about her nation and culture. I've heard that individuals in your nation are slow to react. Is that accurate? If you work negligently, it becomes an issue. While Hannah attempted to defend her heritage, the tone of the interview became more somber. Are you even fluent in English? Are you able to write in English? Jones asked quick inquiries. Yes, I speak Japanese, French, and English. Nevertheless, I'm not particularly good at writing because I've spent the majority of my life overseas. An English language learner who aspires to be employed by a publishing company, you certainly possess nerve. You still need to work on your English, by the way. To speak correctly, you must study more. Hannah was rendered speechless by Brown's unexpected remarks, which shocked and upset her. They kept inquiring about her mother's nation for the remainder of the session. It seemed like they were hinting that the nation and customs of her mother were inappropriate for an American business. Hannah felt discouraged after the interview and thought her efforts had been in vain. She was really stressed and uncomfortable due to the unjust inquiries and remarks that resulted from cultural misinterpretations and prejudices. I'm at my breaking point with this firm. I put a lot of effort into getting ready for the interview, and this is the result. Hannah looked for a long time at the lobby's atrium through watery eyes. Just as she was going to depart and settle herself a little, she heard her name called from behind. Miss Smith. Hannah Smith. It was the obnoxious Brown. Yes. I thought I should give this to you. Brown gave her an envelope. There was a draft offer letter inside. What does this mean? We need ladies like you in this globalized world. We'd assumed an immediate notification because we can't afford to let you go to another organization. Her bewilderment at the abrupt shift in attitude was evident. Once your official hiring is confirmed, we'll send you an email with the details of the orientation later. When Hannah realized she had been employed, she was overjoyed. She ran straight to me when she got home. Dad, listen, I got the offer. Sincerely, I was in disbelief. That was the first time I heard of that company making an immediate job offer, but my daughter's name was clearly on the letter. I would eventually come to regret not having looked over the letter carefully at the time. The enthusiasm in our home was palpable on the day of the orientation. Hannah got ready and put on a suit as soon as she woke up. A mixture of anticipation and nervousness was visible on her face. It's time to go. The sight of Hannah in her new attire brought me to tears. Like I had on the day of the interview, I gave her a gentle prod in the rear and watched her go with pride. However, Hannah returned virtually instantly. Have you forgotten anything? The orientation has barely begun. Why have you returned home? No, that's not the case. My ID reads incompetent on it. What? Incapable. My hands shook with rage at the news. With their employee IDs in hand, the newly hired staff members had congregated in the business lobby for the orientation. The new hires came to the gate one by one, presenting their IDs to the reader. However, Hannah was refused access as she attempted to pass through the gate, and an error message abruptly sprang up on the display. Her face became pale as she examined her ID. She was not identified by name. It said, Smith, incompetent. While other staff members hurried over to comprehend the situation, everyone was left in startled silence. Brown then materialized, her heels tapping the ground. I became aware of the circumstance. I apologize. It appears that the ID was issued incorrectly. There is no mention of you among the new hires. What do you mean? Oh, I should have told you. All I offered you in the letter was a verbal commitment and a tentative offer. Not a formal employment offer was made. You don't seem to have understood English. We discovered more capable individuals than you. Hannah couldn't say anything. We made the IDs as a joke, and it accidentally got sent to you. That is really awful. Why would you act in such way? The other workers, who had seen it all, muttered in shock. It's your fault you tried to challenge me. Hannah dropped everything she was carrying and bolted from the scene. After hearing the narrative, I couldn't hold still and immediately went to a specific location. The last-minute arrangements for the orientation were being made behind the scenes. Regarding the earlier events in the lobby, Brown, is everything okay? If the president finds out, that will be a serious issue. It's all right. Not even the president will know. The president's whereabouts and activities are unknown to me. Such unimportant things don't concern him, Brown chuckled. You did that, but why? You might have simply turned her down like normal. Because our company is inundated with applicants who wish to interview. The majority of them are unfit and incompetent for our organization. Conducting interviews and reading resumes is tiresome. The male worker questioned Brown's strategies and attempted to have a moral conversation about the matter. But you didn't have to treat the girl like that. These women who are so fixated on foreigners annoy me. I reasoned that it would be effective if we used her to propagate the notion that this organization shouldn't employ incompetent staff. The heartless Brown attempted to defend her behavior by asking, "Do you really think that's a good way to handle it? It's going to keep the inept ones away, right? It facilitates our work. But you put that girl through a lot. Maybe, but it's necessary for our benefit. Harming people in order to further one's own interests has a detrimental effect on the organization's reputation and culture. I think everyone there felt the same way. Abruptly, a staff member dashed in. Brown, from the General Affairs Department. Mr. Williams. What's going on? Observe this. How did you get here? Mr. Williams displayed a social media post on his smartphone. Brown saw it, and her face went white. What is this? The entire encounter with Hannah had been captured on camera and uploaded to the internet. The nasty comments that followed, such as, "That woman should quit. You're the real incompetent one. Spread this, and she deserves public backlash," were all over the comment area as it immediately went viral. What every employee who saw the situation felt was expressed by the spectators. The footage demonstrated who was actually bad for the business. Brown held it in her hands and hung her head. What actions will we take? It quickly became so popular, and the orientation is set to begin. For now, let's proceed with the orientation as planned to avoid further confusion. As a result, the orientation started later than expected. The ceremony carried on, as if the previous incident had never happened. The new hires were greeted and given words of encouragement. Jones, who took part in the hiring process, provided the address of the representative. "Hello, prospective workers. I'm sorry about the inconvenience previously. However, I think that even in such difficult circumstances, we may grow and learn. We have faith that you will rise above this difficulty, deepen your relationships, and continue." I scoffed at him in silence, seeing how contradictory his remarks were. "We are pleased to have you join our firm as a member today. We genuinely hope that you will grow with us, overcome any challenges, and enjoy the pride and responsibilities that come with being a part of our organization." The entire auditorium broke out in applause. The new hires raised their hands collectively at the pledge ceremony, promising the company commitment and accountability. They inspired everyone in the room with their unwavering resolve and solidarity. Hannah, though, wasn't in the hallway. I was so upset that I was unable to see her grin. Next, we will have a greeting from our president, Mr. Johnson, to the new employees. When my name came up, I went to the podium. That individual was facing the business. Yes, I lead this company as its president. My father is the chairman, by the way. My father was going to make the speech first, but I asked to speak briefly instead. I welcome you all with the utmost warmth. In our organization, ethics are very important. People without morals could be seen as incompatible with our principles. I spoke with emphasis, picturing a specific individual. Always behave honorably and truthfully. This, in my opinion, is essential to the expansion and success of our company. With this, I gave Jones a stare. I had a mental image of his pallid face. I inhaled deeply and carried on. But today, someone behaved inappropriately, and nobody intervened. We don't need people who put their own interests first and ignore problems in this organization. Since this building is going to be demolished, you're all fired. The noise filled the whole hall. I ignored the mutterings behind me and walked off the stage. "President, that was a really inspiring speech." Jones walked over to me and adopted a whole new demeanor. "What?" "I mean, I'm sorry for the hurtful things I said the other day." "She's your daughter." "I never knew that." "So, if she wasn't my daughter, it would be okay to hurt her." I raised my voice and pressed Jones. "No, of course not, but her name." Our marriage ended in divorce. Now that she accompanied my ex-wife, she goes by Hannah Smith. Enough, I see. Give Brown a call. Brown was brought forward. He was hunched down and needed help to stand. "Yes, President, I apologize profusely. Please pardon me. You don't stand a chance. You two have lost your jobs. Leave now and don't return." I therefore let Jones and Brown go. My father, the chairman, gave me a harsh rebuke right away. The lives of our workers and their families are under our control. Avoid making quick decisions. Yes, but those two. Yes, those two can go, but protect the other employees. I will retract it right away. I thus took back my remarks from the orientation and concentrated on ensuring the safety of every employee, aside from Jones and Brown. Not one worker, not even the recent hires, chose to quit in spite of the furor on social media and the company's designation as a black one. We re-examined and clarified the philosophy and values of our business. We started down the path of rebuilding trust by putting these concepts into practice. Furthermore, in order to show the company's dedication to society, we concentrated on community service and social contribution initiatives. In the meanwhile, Jones and Brown went to multiple interviews in search of new jobs. You've worked at a publishing company before, right? I did, indeed. I was formerly employed by a publishing company. I see. It makes sense why the name seemed familiar. People with poor ethics are not hired by us. Kindly depart now. Jones' expression was confused and he was at a loss for words. He felt a mixture of regret and rage as he thought back on his errors. Brown, meantime, was at home, letting out a long sigh as he stared out the window. Like Jones, she had trouble finding a job because of her uncommon name, which became a disadvantage. In addition, the video stayed up online like a digital scar, and she was recognized by people who muttered and stared at her on the street. Brown gradually withdrew from society as a result of this. A year after the event, the public's trust in my company was gradually returning. Hannah made the decision to put herself to the test once more and was able to secure employment on her own. Dad, thank you for standing up for me back then, even threatening to demolish the building. Yes, I may have taken something a little too far. The philosophy of this company has not altered. Our goal is to serve as a link between the United States and the rest of the world, advancing American culture abroad and making sure that Americans are honored and appreciated both